Hello everyone. The idea for this WhatsApp video service was inspired by a poem that Holland Morell used in her worship in Doncaster last week. It's by Rainer Marie Rilke. Here it goes. The poet speaks of praising. Oh speak, poet, what do you do? I praise. But the monstrosities and the murderous days, how do you endure them? How do you take them? I praise. But the anonymous, the nameless grays, how, poet, do you still invoke them? I praise. What right have you in all displays, in very mask to be genuine? I praise. And that stillness and the turbulent sprays, know you like star and storm? Because I praise. This reminded me strongly of the concluding lines of W. H. Auden's poem In Memory of W. B. Yeats. Follow, poet, follow right, to the bottom of the night, with your unconstraining voice, still persuade us to rejoice. With the farmer of a verse, make a vineyard of the curse, sing of human unsuccess, in a rapture of distress. In the deserts of the heart, let the healing fountain start. In the prison of his days, teach the free man how to praise. And in an earlier passage in that quite long poem, he says, for poetry makes nothing happen. It survives in the valley of its saying. Sure about
Yeah.
On the 26th of October 1963, less than a month before he was assassinated, President John Fitzgerald Kennedy dedicated a library at Amherst College, Massachusetts, to the American poet Robert Frost. He described the poet, who died in January 1963, as a man whose contribution was not to our size but to our spirit, not to our political beliefs but to our insight, not to our self-esteem but to our self-comprehension. He went on to say, when power leads man towards arrogance, poetry reminds him of his limitations. When power narrows the areas of man's concern, poetry reminds him of the richness and diversity of his existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses. And here is one of my own. To all who rise, to all who fall, to all the children of the heart, the good, the evil, and the lost, so close, so far apart. To the weak and foolish man who thinks he is wise and strong, to the dull, self-righteous woman who thinks everyone else is wrong, to the young who despise the old, and the old who distrust the young, to the one climbing up the ladder and the one falling off the rung. We are all in this together, foot in mouth and hand in glove. We are all in this together, stumbling towards love. We may pray for the dead and buried, that their ghosts be laid to rest. For the weary and the worried, may they know that they are blessed. May all their faults be forgiven, and their secret wounds all healed. May we walk among the living, with their deepest truth revealed, that nothing is too much, and too much is not enough. We are all in this together, stumbling toward love. May every ghost that trembles in every splintered soul, and every hope and promise that was shattered become whole. It may come as a gentle blessing, it may come as a muttered curse, it may come with a rush of silence, or a torrent of tumbling words. It is true for the high and the mighty, for the humble and the small. It is true for the just and the wicked, for the best and the worst of us all. We are one with the hungry vulture. We are one with the holy dove. We are all in this together, stumbling towards love. Let us pray for the whole and the broken, for the angry and the meek. Let us pray for the word unspoken. Let us pray for the strength to speak, saying guilt and grief and wisdom, they are not so far apart. They're all part of the price of admission to the holy core of the heart. And this is the deepest secret. And this is the highest prayer. And this is the only truth you need. The truth that is written there. When all the costs are counted and push returns to shove, we are all in this together, stumbling towards love.
One of my all-time favorite poems is by the German romantic poet Novalis, which was a pen name for Friedrich Leopold von Hardenberg. And it showed, so you get it, in two languages. Wenn nicht mehr Zahlen und Figuren, wenn nicht mehr Zahlen und Figuren sind Schlüssel aller Kreaturen, wenn die so singen oder küssen, mehr als die Tiefgelehrten wissen, wenn sich die Welt ins freie Leben und in die Welt wird zurückbegeben, wenn dann sich wieder Licht und Schatten zu echter Klarheit wieder gatten und man in Märchen und Gedichten erkennt die wahren Weltgeschichten, dann fliegt von einem geheimen Wort das ganze verkehrte Wesen fort. If no longer numbers and figures, if no longer numbers and figures are the keys to all creatures, when those who sing and kiss so well know more than the most deeply learned people, when the world goes back to the free life and back to being a world, when light and shadow are the right pair providing clarity, and when we recognize in fairy tales and poetry the true stories of the world, then just like magic, with one single secret word, everything wrong will be gone.
That was, of course, by Bob Dylan. And the occasion for that is today is his birthday. He is 79 years old today, Sunday the 24th of May. And I have chosen that piece to say happy birthday, Bob, with, not only because it is a beautiful spiritual piece of poetic art and craft, eminently appropriate for use in any form of worship, but because there is nothing tricky, cryptic, or controversial about it. No multiple meanings to be misunderstood, for no one has ever been more misinterpreted, overinterpreted, and misjudged by the critics than Bob Dylan. They thought he was being deep and meaningful when he was just having fun with words. They thought he was just having fun with words when he actually had something original and important to say. But perhaps they were not always to blame. For he did play a lot of games, he did pull off a lot of tricks. And one of the truest and most meaningful thing he ever said, he probably said as a joke. Hang on, reconsider that. Let me revise that. One of the best, most meaningful, and most necessary things anyone has ever said is this. Take care of all of your memories, said Mick, for you cannot relive them. And remember when you're out there trying to heal the sick, that first you must always forgive them. Yep, no one has ever been more misjudged by critics, fans and analysts than Dylan has. But no one has ever been better at dodging out of their way, defying their expectations and leaving them guessing than Dylan. And no one in all of the history of art and music, and all of the entire history of popular culture, in all of its forms, has ever been treated not as an artist, an entertainer, or even just as a person, but as a piece of property than Dylan has. They thought that by buying his song they were buying his soul, but it's only the shadow it's casting he's selling. It's only the skin of the story he's telling. He's putting on a show. Happy birthday, Bob. Keep on dodging. Keep them guessing.
With the wave and the wind and the waters, the soul of the lonely cry, and the purpose swims and splashes when the stormy petrels fly. He has all the colour and splendour of the meeting of sky and sea. He has all we can remember of all that we dreamed we could be. Life was a great adventure when the world was fresh and young. Where is a heart as bitter that will say that we were wrong? We believed the song and the story when we felt that the world was fresh. Are our souls so old and wrinkled that we should settle for anything less? Be as soft as a silky whisper and as sharp as a grain of sand, for the dream goes on forever, as long as the heart can dance, and the glow of the soul will glisten, and the mind shine sharp and clear, as long as the heart will listen to the song of the spinning years. For the heart is a quiet harbour, and the mind is a flowing stream, and the song of the soul lasts forever, as long as we dare to dream. The rumblings of dissatisfaction growl like a restless ghost. They are only a distraction from the things that matter most. From the chains of greed and envy, let the soul and mind be freed, and the only things we will leave behind are the things that we do not need. So limbs and bones grow weary, and knees ache at the climb of the stairs. If you laugh as just as loud as you sigh, then your joys are as great as your cares. We are never too old for adventure. We are never too old for romance. Then the dream will go on forever, as long as the heart can dance. Be as soft as a silky whisper, and as sharp as a grain of sand, for the dream goes on forever, as long as the heart can dance, and the glow of the soul will glisten, and the mind shine sharp and clear, as long as the heart will listen to the song of the spinning years. For the heart is a quiet harbour, and the mind is a flowing stream. For the song of the soul lasts forever, as long as we dare to dream. In this WhatsApp service, we use a YouTube clip, John Baez singing for the heroes, and the track he sings is Bob Dylan's Forever Young, which made me think, what about the ones who are forever young because they never had a chance to grow old? When looking for something else, Tom found this framed portrait of a young man, aged 19, from the year 1923. He died at the age of 19 and was a member of the Sunday school. We don't know a lot else about this young man. His parents probably were immensely proud of him, liked him in the photograph. He looked serious, daydreamy, and what else? He was a young man with a lot of life and dreams ahead of him. In this crisis we are living through now, there are people who died with a lot of their lives and dreams unfulfilled. Even if they might be older than our young man in the photograph, it still makes our hearts heavy. But maybe the message of Forever Young, the message from the man in the photograph is: be forever young, how old you are. You are the carrier of dreams, your own and others.